Hello everyone, I'm Burger, and I am here with a One Piece discussion video where I will be discussing power scaling in One Piece, and how I don't think it's as simple as one character is stronger than the other, but a character is a collection of scores in a number of categories that dictates whether they will succeed or fail in battle. While I was working on this video, it seems King of Lightning has uploaded a very similar video, because, of course, just my luck. But our ideas are pretty different, and the similarities end at the categories and scores, as my way of ranking the scores and their usage are pretty different. Because I am talking about fiction, everything I'm saying is an opinion, and opinions are subject to change, so if you have something you would disagree with me on, please let me know and I will take it into consideration. The point of this system is, once again, for each character who fights to have a number of categories that they have strengths in, and a score applied to each of their strengths. Some characters would have a 0 minimum, and other characters would have a maximum of 3. The point of this system is for a character that appears multiple times in the story, or in every single chapter, like Luffy, to have a semi-consistent score throughout the entire story. So a character who is a total plebeian from the beginning of the story may have a 3 or a 2 in one category, and a character who is totally awesome at the end of the story may also have a 3 or a 2 in a category. Because One Piece is a story that gradually progresses down the grand line, and people go as far as they can. So, it makes sense for the scores to not just go astronomically high as you go down the story. Ultimately, these scores are actually marking their potential for strength, not the actual strength they have at the time. All of the categories, besides one, at least, obviously, are optional. Some characters may have a 0 in one category, but a 3 in another, and that is enough for them to stand up to the main characters. The only reason a character's score would change is if they went through some character development, realizing that they are putting not enough or too much effort into one category of their fighting and need to adjust as the story progresses. These changes would be most common in the main characters, as they're the ones who get character development over time, such as how Luffy has gotten smarter and more careful with his decisions. The first category is strength/will, and this may confuse people at first, but hear me out at least. I say will and strength are the same thing because, for one, we never really see Luffy do any exercise. Why is he so strong if he never does any exercise, besides fighting? And I think that all of his fighting is making his willpower stronger, not his physical strength. There's also evidence in this because when Luffy was taught Haki, he was told that Haki would get stronger as his willpower gets stronger. And Haki seems to be a really important thing amongst the more powerful characters. So, I would say that the character's strength is really more dependent of their willpower. Of course, there are many paths to strong will, as lots of characters are seen working out, but not all of them. An example of strength and willpower being the same thing in One Piece is the battle of Luffy versus Katakuri. Despite Luffy clearly being weaker than Katakuri at the beginning of their fight, Luffy kept standing by his own ideals, and kept standing up to him, standing up for what he believed in, and as the fight went on, Katakuri lost sight of what he believed in, realizing that he wanted to be just like Luffy, and so Luffy was the victor in this extremely unlikely fight. Another example of One Piece being a battle of wills is Luffy versus Rob Lucci. Luffy is the man who represents freedom, and Rob Lucci was the man who represents order, and when one person's will outbattled the other, the victor was decided. How else could Luffy keep fighting went under extreme pain from using Gear Second for the second or third time that day. Now that I've told you why I think strength and willpower are the same thing, I'm going to give you an example of some numbers. I would say that all of the following characters have a maximum score of 3 in this category. Luffy, Rob Lucci, Katakuri, and Big Mom. They are all excessively strong, excessively willful people. And they stand true to their ideals. Their ideals are incredibly different, particularly Big Mom, who just wants some cake. But she wanted that cake so bad that she put all of her willpower into it. So despite these people being very different strengths, it's unclear how strong Rob Lucci is now that he's re-entered the story. Despite all these people being different strengths, they all have the same score, no matter what point they were introduced to the story. Because Rob Lucci would have a 3 now and then, assuming he didn't grow weak from breaking his own ideals, which I find unlikely. If anything, I would say he strived to be stronger after being defeated by Luffy, but that's a discussion for another day. The next category I would like to talk about is Devil Fruit usage. This is an extremely important score in both the early and late story. And it's also the score I would say has changed the most for Luffy throughout the story, through his character development. Devil Fruit usage tends to be a score that weaker characters tend to specialize in. Since Devil Fruit is basically just handing you powers, weaker characters tend to just take advantage of the powers they were given instead of actually working on their willpower or their other categories that I will get into later, such as Wapol and Karibo. Karibo was gifted the ability to not take physical attacks and to turn into mud and have a bottomless pit in his stomach. Those are some very useful abilities that he made pretty well use of. However, once he was attacked by someone who actually had willpower, he was defeated pretty quickly. Another example being Wapol. Wapol ate some interesting things with his Munch Munch fruit powers. He ate weapons, he ate his allies, and he tried to eat his enemies. He even ate himself to resculpt his body. This is some pretty creative use of his Devil Fruit, and I would give him a score of a 2. The reason I'm not giving him a score of a 3 is I think there's still so much more he could be doing with that amazing Devil Fruit. Because really, I would say, Wapol has a pretty good Devil Fruit. And for Luffy being the character who shows up in the most in the story, I would say that his usage of Devil Fruit has improved quite a bit. I would say at the beginning of the story, he only had a 1 in the score. He made some use of it, but not nearly as much as he could have. I think the breaking point for him to get a better score was when he fought Crocodile. Back in Arlong Park, to backtrack a bit, he used really random attacks and ended up getting himself into quite a bit of trouble sticking his feet into the ground and trying that pinwheel attack. But by the time he had fought Crocodile, and Crocodile told him to stop using random attacks and actually do something, he had come up with quite a few really good attacks to use. The next breaking point for him, when he really started to use his Devil Fruit creatively, was during Eni's lobby, when he decided to use blood oxidation to increase his speed by using rubber to pump his blood through his body, and inflating his bones, which doesn't make a ton of sense, but it's still creative use of his powers. I would say that Gear 4th would be equally as creative as the other two, because Gear 4th just seems like it's a whole lot harder to use, from what I can see. So that would be his character development and his increase of Devil Fruit usage throughout the story. There are 2 characters I can think of who even have a 0 in this score despite having Devil Fruits, and that would be the guy who throws boogers at people and the lady who tries to sit on people from, what was the island called? Oh yes, Little Garden. They really sucked with their powers. They really did. like throwing boogers at people and putting breath in a gun, is not nearly as creative as things you could do with a power that lets you blow people up. That's a seriously good power. And the whole increasing your weight thing, surely you can think of something more creative than just trying to sit on people. I would say Mr. 3, who also appeared in that arc, would have ability score of 2, as he could put out quite a bit of wax. However, his wax was only as hard as iron, and we've seen characters more recently in the story who could create much more durable materials, such as Doflamingo strings and Parasparrow's candy. I can remember his name for a second. The next category I would like to talk about is the skill/senses category. I am putting skill and senses in the exact same category, because I feel like you need to have incredible senses to use incredible skill. Now, there are very different ways to use this ability, so I'm going to give 3 examples from the main crew. Now, the 3 examples are pretty different. The first example is Usopp. Usopp has incredible sight and hearing. He's the first to notice everything, and with that, he has incredible range with his slingshot. The next example I would give is Zoro. He uses skill to use the flying sword attack. I would say that the flying sword attack is something indicative of skill, not strength, because of the way Zoro had to concentrate the first time he tried to use that attack. He wasn't trying to swing his arm extra hard, he was trying to concentrate very well to pull off the difficult attack of the flying sword strike. Another example I would give is CP9. I was going to do Sanji, but then I decided, nah, CP9. CP9 has incredible skill. I would say that all of their martial arts abilities, finger pistol, moonwalk, or whatever they called it, not moonwalk, I think that's what Sanji called it, shave, and the paper art, I think those all take incredible skill to use. And that's why such weak characters, such as CP9, could use them early in the story, but some characters in the current story still can't use them, is because it's not a strength thing, it's a skill thing. You don't have to just push your feet against the air very quickly and strongly to walk on air, even though that has been how it's described. I think it's more of a skill thing, because if it was just a strength thing, I would think characters such as Zoro would be able to use it. I would also like to point out that characters with futuristic weapons, such as Frankie, are also under the skill category because it's just another type of weapon. Along with Nami and her weather weapon. It's just a different type of weapon, and it matters how you use it. So I would also place those under skill. The final category I would like to talk about is the tactics category, and this is how well you plan and follow through on an attack. This is also a category that Luffy has improved on quite a bit. This also includes dirty tricks, such as how Akainu convinced a subordinate of Whitebeard to turn on Whitebeard himself. It doesn't matter if it's honorable or not. If the trick worked, that means that character has an advantage. So if a character backstabs somebody, that means that they're capable of backstabbing somebody. And the fact that Blackbeard managed to kill the strongest man in the world using dirty tricks means something, because dirty tricks shouldn't work on the strongest man in the world. So Blackbeard has that advantage, even if it's not honorable. This tactic is particularly strong with Nami, the way she sets up particularly strong thunderbolts and lures people into traps by using her mirage. This was also demonstrated recently by Luffy when he teamed up with Law to trick Doflamingo into getting extra damage. Yes, it was Law's plan, but the fact that Luffy followed through on it shows that he is capable of tactics as well, even if Law had the superior ground in that situation. Luffy has also demonstrated that he's actually pretty good at tactics nowadays, as his plan to create a bunch of clones of himself to distract everyone at Big Mom's tea party was impressive. Even though he immediately gave himself away, those few seconds of disorganization from all the clones did help him. And that allowed Brook to disguise himself as another Luffy clone and break the photo of Mother Karma. Robin and Usopp also are known to use tactics. Usopp also sets up traps, and Robin, because she uses mainly leverage to break people's necks and injure them, has to plan how she's going to attack someone. Now that I'm finished with the categories, you might find that there's one glaring thing missing, and that is Haki. And that is because I think the different types of Haki and how you use them and how you awaken your Haki can apply to just about any of these categories. Such as the Queen of Ryukyu Kingdom, forgot her name, and Rebecca seem to be able to use observation Haki just because they are empathetic. And Usopp demonstrated the ability to awaken observation Haki in the middle of a battle without training, which was different from Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy, who were trained especially in all three types of Haki. Well, not all three for each of them. I'm not sure if all of them have conquerors, but Luffy for sure was trained in all three. So there are many paths to Haki, and many ways to use it. Another example of a character to have very strong Haki without any training, and without even being a fighter, is the little girl from Skypiea, who could hear the voices of everyone around her, just because she was empathetic. Another character we saw do this was Kobe. So Haki doesn't really fit into any of these categories, or all of them, because I think Haki is just an extension of the abilities you already have, and a manifestation of your will. The only other thing I didn't directly give a category was speed, and that I think I mentioned earlier. I might not have, I don't exactly remember, but while some characters are shown to have exceptional speed, it's not really that quantifiable, and most character speed is about the same as their strength. Not a lot of characters have a speed advantage. And the ones that do, it's very hard to quantify just how fast they are moving. And that is it. That is my system. I will be linking this video to all of the videos where I talk about how strong each character is. I'm going to be making videos talking about how strong I think each character is, and linking this video to it. I just said the same thing twice. If you disagree with any of this, please tell me. I'm very interested in what you have to say. Everything I've just said is an opinion, and these opinions have been backed up by facts of fiction. It's all fiction. So if you disagree with me, please tell me. I'd love to hear what you have to say. That's going to be for today, everyone. Bye!